Today we have a treat for us. It's my distinct pleasure to invite Dr. Ingrid Vasiliu-Feltes. She is my colleague here at the business school. She works in the healthcare department, the division, and she is a distinguished global thought leader and an esteemed academic. And she has made many contributions which span several disciplines. She is an alumna of Columbia, MIT, Stanford, Harvard. I don't know what else I've forgotten, and UM2, of course. Okay, she has leveraged her educational background to drive significant advances in many fields. She is interested in quantum technology, digital twins, AI, blockchain, genetic engineering, biotech. Okay, get the satellite technologies, 6G networks. Okay, and she's a leading advocate for integrating these emerging and frontier technologies. She has held several executive leadership roles, like president, CEO, chief innovation officer, chief quality and safety officer, CMO, and she has also been the VP for education and research. She's a very highly sought after keynote speaker and serves on the board of many advisor, also an advisory capacity in the C-suite for many organizations. One of the most important things I think she is valuable to us for is that she's a very dedicated academic and dedicated to the excellence of our university. And it is my pleasure to welcome Ingrid. And Ingrid, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've followed the series that you've been hosting diligently, and I love the breadth and complexity of topics that you're able to address. And I hope today we're touching on a facet that has not been addressed yet in our series. So I hope our audience will enjoy it. Given that we have a broad audience as well, we are joined usually by community members, faculty, students, or technology leaders. It was important for me to try to structure the presentation today to meet everyone's interest. So please allow me to share the PowerPoint. And the way we envisioned this is that we are hoping to start with a basic introduction of the topic and definitions. Then we'll move into the global landscape to try to understand the broader ecosystem that's happening right now and why this topic is so important. I will share just a little bit about why digital twinning is at this moment in history so important for us in the economy and academia, and as well as for our society, actually. And then we'll go a little deeper dive into some of the technical, more engineering details for those of you interested in that topic. Because it's such a broad theme, I will focus mostly on healthcare, which is also my background, but I will share a lot of insights from my other digital twinning experience, which is for smart cities across all industries, because that sometimes helps us to understand what has worked in other industries and what has not worked in other industries. And as we know, healthcare is always more complicated. So I will share some of those insights as well throughout the presentation. This is our overview. I planned the presentation for about 45, 60 minutes, and then we'll open up for Q&A if we have any questions, so that we can address very specific, unique interests that you might have out of everything that we share. Before I start with the presentation, I also wanted to tell you that the passion I developed for digital twins occurred in 2016, very early on, because I was working at that time at a national level, taking care of 26 specialties across 50 states. And one of those specialties was ICU care, and not any type of ICU care, but neonatal ICU and pediatric ICU care. And we had about 250 ICUs that I was in charge for. And I came across digital twinning as a safety tool, and I was fascinated by it. So this is how I started to get motivated to learn more, from being at that time a pure quality and safety and innovation officer. I learned a lot about the power of digital twins in helping us develop higher quality, safety, and continuously improve what we were doing. So today I will share everything I learned from then, and I hope that you'll become interested as well in this fascinating topic of digital twinning. To start, let's make sure we're all on the same page to understand what a digital twin is in general. This is a general definition that is cross industries. So a digital twin is a dynamic virtual analytics replica of a physical system, which is continuously updated with real-time data, very important, to simulate, predict, optimize, and support our decision-making. If we want to customize this now for healthcare, this is how it would look like. A digital twin is a dynamic analytic virtual replica of a healthcare-related physical system, which in our case could be a whole building, such as a hospital system building, or an operating room, or an emergency room, or a suite for interventional radiology, or an ultrasound machine. Further, we can extrapolate for healthcare, and I'll share with you a lot of examples today, that we can now create a dynamic virtual replica of our human body or a human organ, or of even our molecular system, and more recently, even our genomic ecosystem. Fascinating processes. There are teams who have also created digital twin replicas of disease processes such as Alzheimer or multiple sclerosis. Or many researchers now are trying to understand even our wellness state. How does wellness look like for our body if we want to create a dynamic replica of our well state so that we can understand changes? The same applies for the digital twin in healthcare, that we're doing all of this to simulate disease states, to simulate what happens if we want to treat a disease, to simulate if we want to understand how to recuperate from a disease or understand safety of our products, such as medications or procedures that we're doing. Additionally, a digital twin can help us predict who is more prone to develop disease, or who is more prone to respond to a certain treatment, or which type of surgical pathway might be more amenable to some populations versus others. That allows us to create more precise and personalized interventions for healthcare, as opposed to just general large population best practices. As we mentioned in the general definition, a digital twin for healthcare allows us to also continuously update the data as we are creating it. So it's not just creating a report after a month or 2 or 3 or annually, it's continuous live data feeds that combine retrospective data with concurrent data and to do prediction at the same time. Here are just a few examples that complement that definition I just showed. So the current pilots that I'll show you are either related to physical spaces. There are leaders in the digital twin field that have focused very much on operating room, emergency room, and interventional suites. Medical devices, of course, not only MRI, CT scan, ultrasound machines, and other live interventional procedures. The human organs that I mentioned, we now already have digital twins of the brain, heart, lung, kidneys, liver, and more recently, a team has actually developed a digital twin of the placenta. So fascinating work is being done in the world. It's very difficult work, but they're making huge progress. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the human body as a whole, to understand the disease processes and wellness processes, and genomics. Massive pilots currently going on to try to understand our genetic background, and digital twinning is a perfect tool for that. If some of you are interested later on after this presentation, I invite you to check this website out, where you can play around by yourself and upload data if you wish. And you can see how a digital twin would work for patients, consumers directly. So you're welcome to try that after the presentation if this piqued your interest. In order to understand digital twin capabilities, I will want to share 3 brief clips, and then we'll dive deeper into the content that I prepared for you. But I think it's imperative to watch those 3 perspectives first, because I think it will set the stage to understand all the other elements that I want to share with you. The first clip I'll share is underscoring what the leading companies are doing currently for industrial digital twinning. you will notice that although we don't hear about digital twins, we're surrounded at all times by the benefits of digital twins in other industries. For instance, NASA has used a digital twin to create safety for all their projects for outer space. All airlines are testing air safety, of course, the engines, through a digital twinning model so that we can fly safely. Car manufacturers such as BMW have been using digital twinning for years to make sure that when we drive a car, it is safe and they don't have to test it while we are driving, of course. And I can give you similar numerous examples out of all other industries. Healthcare is relatively new compared to how digital twins were used in all other industries for many, many years now. Okay, so that's the first video I'll show. It's very brief, but I think it will be enjoyable. The second one I will show you is sharing how providers, clinicians, researchers are using digital twinning. And I'll share an example for the digital twin of the heart. We all have a heart and we all care deeply. We have family members that might have heart disease, and the world at a global level is continuing to suffer from heart disease. So I picked the heart because I think it relates to all of us. And then the third very brief clip is going to highlight how patients can use digital twinning for their direct benefit. So please enjoy, and then we'll dive into the slides right after setting this stage. I'll just briefly stop sharing this, and I'll share those 3 clips in succession, okay?
Physical AI is here, grounded in science and the laws of physics, resetting the world's largest industries. Dassault Systems pioneered virtual twins to model and simulate the world. For almost 30 years, NVIDIA has helped bring them to life. Now, Dassault Systems is combining NVIDIA AI models, CUDA-X, and Omniverse libraries with its virtual twin factories to super accelerate design and engineering with AI physics, to open new paths to molecule and material discovery, and build complex software-defined robotic factories, whether for manufacturing products or a new type of factory for manufacturing intelligence, AI factories, and new virtual companions, AI agents who assist engineers and scientists at every step. The new era of virtual twins has arrived, powered by NVIDIA, brought to life by Dassault Systems.
I'm Tommaso Manzi. I'm Senior Director at Siemens Healthineers in Princeton, New Jersey, leading the team focusing on image-guided therapy and robotics. We focus on developing technologies to support interventional planning, guidance, monitoring, and follow-up. Heart failure is one of the most significant burdens in terms of healthcare. During the process of the disease, as the heart becomes bigger and sick, these 2 chambers actually beat asynchronously. So the idea of cardiac resynchronization therapy is to actually override the electrical asynchrony using an advanced pacemaker. The idea is to put electrodes on the right and on the left, right? And then time it correctly such that we resynchronize the heart. And if it's placed well and the patient responds, the quality of life of the patient increases significantly. The problem is that there are patients who still do not respond, about 30 to 50% depending on the statistics. So the question is this, so how can we adjust the therapy to increase the chance that he's going to respond? Here is the idea of, okay, why not actually creating that digital twin and trying the different configurations on the computer, provide some suggestions of what could potentially work or not, and then use that information, use that knowledge to guide the intervention. So now creating a digital twin, this is a bold vision, right? We are talking about creating a digital twin of a human body, of a human heart, right? So, and this requires a lot of expertise from different fields. We really have a multidisciplinary team working all very, very closely together, including a physician, Dr. Hiroshi Ashikaga, who really guides us in what are the real clinical problems that such a technology could help. So if we take cardiac physiology, right? So you have mechanics, electrophysiology, fluid dynamics, the blood flow inside, and so on. So these are very specific physiologies, each one with its own laws. What is interesting is that there are not that many laws in nature, right? So the mathematical structure of these equations can often be similar, even though they represent different physiologies or different physics. And so it's the same approach, the same thinking, the same philosophy, understand nature, try to approximate it through mathematical laws, adjust with data to predict what will happen. And this applies to many aspects, right? Cosmology with the galaxies, weather, what weather will be tomorrow, or for the heart, for the liver, for the human body, it's always the same principle.
The digital patient twin. A digital likeness of an actual human, built from millions of data points and created by artificial intelligence. This is still a vision of the future, but at Siemens Healthineers, we think patient twinning could be a key component in a number of pioneering breakthroughs in healthcare. Why? Well, because it could help sick people get back to their normal lives in the shortest possible time. Or ideally, it could prevent people from getting sick in the first place. We know that sounds like a big dream, but let's take a look at how it might actually work. Of course, it's all about data. A patient twin will be constructed from a person's long-term medical history and their digital patient record. Data from medical exams and sensors like wearable devices will update this information by providing medical and lifestyle data in real time. AI algorithms will continuously match this data with comparable data sets. They will create simulations, for example, on the patient's future health status, and provide actionable insights that can be used for decision support. The patient twin can never be a standalone solution. It will only work as part of an ambient network of digital twins, whether it's twins of patients, physicians, or even digital twins of medical devices. For medical devices, this network would enable a personalized, automated configuration, so all settings would automatically fit the specific needs of the patient to minimize unwarranted variations. What advantages would patient twinning technology have for the individual patient? The patient twin continuously monitors the health and lifestyle data of the real person. It could present the data obtained from evaluations and simulations in a way that is easy to understand. This information could give the real person an impetus to adjust their lifestyle or go for a medical checkup. So the technology can empower patients to self-manage their health. And by being able to take preventive measures in a timely manner through continuous monitoring, the real person might be prevented from getting sick in the first place. Even if there is an emergency situation, the patient twin could intervene immediately, for example, by alerting an ambulance, notifying family and caregivers, and transmitting all patient data to the clinic. So everything would be in place, and with the help of AI, any medical device would be set exactly to meet the patient's needs before the patient even arrives. This means that patients could receive the best possible treatment anywhere, at any time, and from any caregiver. A patient twin could also support caregivers. For example, it could offer physicians clearly displayed information about their patient's health condition and provide actionable insights for decision support. So physicians could arrive at an appropriate diagnosis and targeted treatment options for each of their patients. Based on the precise data from the patient twin that allows automated configurations of medical devices, even remote intervention supported by robotic technologies may be possible. Always, of course, under the constant supervision of real-life experts. In this way, the patient twinning concept will free up valuable time for caregivers, which they can use to focus on their patients. With deeper anamnesis, discussions, and clarifications. And for the healthcare system as a whole, this technology could provide better outcomes at a lower cost. Imagine personalized precision medicine becoming a reality. Imagine humanizing medtech for everyone, everywhere, with the help of patient twinning.
So if we want to understand capabilities, it is essential to understand the core architecture. So digital twins help with data pipelines, they create simulation engines, they can interact with all the analytics layer, with APIs, and then of course they can create control dashboards that we all can use. Digital twin capabilities are grounded in systems engineering. So when you look at teams that create this digital twinning, you'll see not only scientists, but also engineers and clinicians working hand in hand. Another important aspect that we must understand is the bidirectional data flow between the physical AI system that we're examining and the virtual analytics twin. The simulations that we're creating with digital twins help us not only improve performance, but also do resilience testing. And that is essential because, as we know in healthcare, if we cannot sustain our efforts, then patient outcomes are suffering. It also supports verification, validation, and lifecycle traceability. As we know, healthcare is a highly complex regulated ecosystem, so digital twinning that helps us not only gain all the important clinical and research insights, but it helps us also adhere to the regulatory complex environment and to the reporting needs that we have is a very sophisticated, elegant tool for us to have. As I mentioned earlier, digital twins can also integrate a variety of data sets. Current digital health offers us the opportunity to understand a lot of types of data. But when we try to combine those types of data in typical platforms such as EHRs, it's very difficult. So digital twinning platforms allow us to do that seamlessly. So it can combine clinical data sets, such we have, of course, in the EHRs that we've been using for many years, but it can also combine sensor data. We have many wearables now and sensors that are generating data 24/7, and the types of data points that are exponentially higher than just normal clinical routine visits. We also can integrate bioimplant data. There is a rising number of bioimplants now in very specific specialties in healthcare that are generating also data sets that are unique and that do not fit in our traditional clinical EHR settings. Nanotech devices are also starting to generate data. There are several academic institutions in the world who have done amazing pilots with nanotech, not only in neuroscience, but also cardiology and orthopedics and other specialties. So having the opportunity to combine the clinical sensor, bioimplant, and nanotech data is fantastic. Then synthetic data. We have seen an increase in the generation of synthetic data sets. This is appropriate synthetic data sets done by scientists, not data sets that are fake for malicious intent. And these can also be very nicely combined in a digital twinning platform to complement the other data sets that we have. Digital twinning also allows us to enable a more complex capability even that's called federated learning. And that federated learning is crucial for us in healthcare. It allows us to analyze data in a way that's not only protecting privacy, but also allows each stakeholder that contributes data in this federated learning model to maintain their IP rights, to not be afraid to share, so that we can all benefit from the analytics insights without jeopardizing our IP rights or our other very precious data sets that we don't otherwise want to share. Now that we understood the capabilities, I just want to give you a little bit broader industry landscape impressions, why it's so important now to talk about this. As I mentioned earlier, digital twins have been prominent in other industries, so there it's not a novelty anymore. But in healthcare, we've only seen that over the last 2-3 years being much more adopted. So we see increased investments in healthcare AI and digital twinning, increased adoption, much more pilots by enterprises that are focused on healthcare and digital twins, inconsistent ROI, and that's really important. So when we just look at all AI deployments at a global level, more and more reports are being published, including a recent one by MIT, that shows that ROI is not so clearly traceable when we deploy IO, it's just a plain AI. So using digital twins is actually a way to ensure that our AI deployments can generate the ROI that we're hoping for. So this will be one of the important aspects that I'll emphasize today as well. We also have lagging healthcare-specific AI standards. They are in process, but we're lagging. Ideally, we should have had those already several years ago. And digital twinning can help us create those standards, just like they helped create safety standards in other industries. We want to create healthcare-specific AI standards as well, and digital twins are the tool to help us do that. We also have a lack of customized healthcare-specific AI governance, a lack of customized healthcare-specific AI cyber ethics, and a lack of customized healthcare AI quality assurance and quality improvement. As I mentioned, this is how I started getting interested in digital twins. I was a quality and safety officer, and I wish I had all the tools we have now. It would have made my life much easier and my team's work much more efficient. And even more importantly, it would have helped us create better safety for our patients. If we look at the global landscape, as a quote from Morgan Stanley shows, AI is no longer just a tech story. It is now a macro variable that influences the economy, trade, tariffs, global GDP, credit markets, and geopolitics. Actually, national sovereignty is being affected by AI. Here is an infographic that shows you a little bit how AI investments are distributed globally. It's quite evident who has the highest investments. And I will share also how we see the dollars that are corresponding to that by 2030 growing. So for now, US is expected to reach 868 billion by 2030. And you can see that there are cost savings as well as revenue gains expected from the AI healthcare market. Here is an infographic that highlights how the domains within healthcare receive these type of investments. And if you see digital health, which also includes digital twins, is very prominent there. This is now a more in-depth view about the investments in digital twins in general. And as you can see, the numbers are fairly robust now, but what is expected by 2030 is an exponential increase. To have a KGR of 47.9 is actually quite significant, almost unheard of. This is also a slide that I wanted to highlight to showcase how healthcare now is playing quite an important role compared to before. And it's all the facets in healthcare, including infrastructure, not only clinical and research, but also infrastructure and the administrative aspects. Here is a map that highlights how North America is dominant now in terms of investments, like I just showed. However, the fastest growing market is in Asia. So it's really important for us to continue to invest in this domain so that we don't lag in investments as well. Here are, of course, more details on the healthcare digital twins market. And I wanted to highlight the fact that the impact on regulatory guidelines and the impact of regulatory guidelines on the digital twins is very, very important. I also wanted to underscore that providers, not only pharma, not only medical device companies, not only research and academia, but providers are expected to be the largest user group, if you can see from this infographic, which is also very rare. We don't usually have providers at the forefront of any innovations. But as I'll highlight today, you'll see why providers are very interested in this, because they can clearly relate to the improved quality and safety and improved performance that we can get in clinical care by using digital twins. So I wanted to now share a few successful healthcare industry pilots in healthcare, so that you see kind of how a pilot like this would look like. And then, of course, we would hope that these can be scaled. I selected one pilot out of each domain that is depicted in those market statistics that are clearly showing increased interest, not only from hospital systems, but also from providers. So this is one example where NVIDIA used an endovascular robot and a human anatomy twin. So this helps, as you know, all the interventions that we need to do in healthcare when someone needs to have a procedure for their heart. Having increased safety, having increased insights, being able to customize these interventions and have AI-guided training for the teams that have to do this instead of just practicing on live patients is highly valuable. So again, vascular specialists and cardiologists have been very passionate about developing these simulations that clearly lead to improved safety during these procedures, and more importantly, improved outcomes after the procedures. Another example is how NVIDIA worked with the Mayo Clinic to enhance diagnosis and treatment. So here they created a combination of patient medical records, imaging records, pathology. You know, pathology currently is also digital. So the digital pathology slides, the typical imaging from CT, MRI scans, and our traditional records, as well as wearables, were all combined in this digital twin platform. And they were able to create this personalized ability to precisely diagnose patients based on all this data instead of just how we were doing it traditionally. That is then combined with a treatment simulation. So not only the diagnosis was personalized, but they were able to also create the treatment simulation to see which treatment out of all the treatment options would be uniquely suitable for each patient based on all this combined data set. So as you can see, this one would also be highly valuable, particularly in oncology, which is where everybody wants to use it first, but it can be applied to any other specialty where you need to have precise diagnosis and have to customize treatments. But the first big domain is oncology that has very big applications. Another domain where this has tremendous applications and direct correlation to saving lives is transplants. So transplant specialists can really benefit from this. As you can imagine, there is a complex set of data sets that needs to be combined, and the treatment simulations are quite complex as well. So this type of the human digital twin for transplant is very effective. Another area after oncology and transplant is infectious diseases. We know that antimicrobial resistance is very, very concerning, and it's actually number one on the list of the World Health Organization. So being able to create a human digital twin also for infectious diseases is fantastic. This is another example of an autonomous medical robotics simulation. Here, NVIDIA partnered with GE Health, and they simulate medical environments and sensor interactions for medical robotics and imaging devices. This is something that, again, is very important because we've seen a lot of transition from traditional surgery to robotic surgery, and it's expected to increase even more. So having the capacity to gather data and continuously improve these type of procedures is the future. Another example is now not from clinical care, but more logistics, workflows, operations. So a smart hospital digital twin was created, again, in collaboration between Foxconn and NVIDIA. And this is a type of project that I've participated on with several other companies, not this one, But smart hospital digital twins can help with a lot of areas that we're struggling with. So it helps not only with patient flow, with operational efficiency, also with energy efficiency, with improved outcomes. And it is very easy to do actually compared to all other examples that we gave so far that involve clinical care. Another example is a nursing digital twin simulator. This is also something that in the future is expected to be highly valuable. As we know, there are not only physician shortages worldwide, but even more acute nursing shortages. Actually, in humanoid robotics, some of the biggest developments right now are humanoid robots that are trained for healthcare nursing. A lot of tasks that are done by nurses that are not requiring a physical clinical expert can be done by a humanoid robot. So therefore, this type of investments and this type of simulations are extremely important. Even during pandemia, a hospital in Italy already had great results at a very simple level. They had not only improved safety for their staff, but also improved outcomes for their patients. So this specific robotics-assisted nursing twin is exceptionally valuable in ICU settings, in the OR setting, in rehabilitation settings, nursing homes. There are several tasks that have been proven consistently with very high accuracy to be much better actually accomplished by a robot-assisted nursing twin than the way we're doing it now. Another big domain is pharma. As you can imagine, pharma has invested very early on in digital twins. And after quality and safety, this is something that also I had an opportunity to work early on. So digital twins can be used to examine safety of any type of pharmaceutical products, not only tablets, capsules, but also injectables and many other tools such as vaccines. So having a digital twin for all the pharma ecosystem is very helpful, not only for safety and quality, but also for manufacturing and to lower costs. More importantly, what we've seen over the last 2 years, it has actually also contributed to us being able to shorten and compress the time frame from when we design a product that has pharmaceutical benefit to bringing it to market to help patients. Another example that was inspired from the pandemia, when we were desperate to try to understand which patients are responding better to ventilation, which patients should be ventilated earlier, and which patients would not have good outcomes, led to this type of tool. So Siemens has worked on a pandemic ventilator digital twin that helped connect not only the data from the ventilator machine, but also for all other data that had to be combined. Genetic data, clinical data, environmental data, comorbidities data, all of those combined helped us with better outcomes. Another example that is operational, how digital twins can help with smart hospital environments, is a project that is done by Siemens Healthineers. So here they have embedded digital twins in every single step within the hospital operations. As you know, hospital systems are like mini cities. They need pretty much everything. We don't see that. We just focus on the clinical care. But what they found is that not only were they able to improve operational efficiency, but it directly impacted also clinical operational efficiency. And therefore, if you have better efficiency and better effectiveness, the clinicians can focus much more on their clinical duties. And therefore, it has actually led to better clinical outcomes, although it started as only an operational product. Another one I wanted to share is the Living Heart Project. So numerous academic institutions worldwide participated in this one. This was one of the examples that first came out from a digital twin for our organs. Right after the heart, they started to work on the brain. But I really encourage you to look at the videos that are offered for this, because it's fascinating to see how clinicians have used the digital twin to combine all the research that we ever had for cardiac disease, all the current clinical data sets, as well as environmental data, sensor data, wearable data, and it really can enhance not only the way we currently practice in cardiology, but it will definitely impact the future of preventing heart disease, which is even more important. So this Living Heart project, this living digital twin of our heart, helps us to design, simulate, test, and also optimize treatments. So not only diagnosis, but also treatment customization, which is so important, of course. Another example is how a hospital used a digital twin to prevent infections to be spread. It is also a relatively easy project, easy to do with very low cost to deploy this, but tremendous benefits. So what we saw in the pandemic environment was that many hospitals were not adapted to what can happen if their systems are not adequate to prevent infections to be spread. So having this type of digital twin immediately visualizes contaminants and can create highly effective mitigation tools. Another one is precision clinical trials. We know that a lot of money is being spent in the industry to create clinical trials that allow us to understand if something that's going to be approved, that something can be a medication or a device or a new therapeutic method, is safe for us. And having virtual digital twins for precision clinical trials and therapy response modeling is absolutely revolutionary. Not only that it protects patients, but it also shortens the time frame, shortens the cost, and gives you much better data than we can get just trying everything in vivo. Another example is the multi-organ virtual twin ecosystem for precision medicine. So here they combined multiple organ data sets to try to also mirror what happens in real life when patients have multiple comorbidities. We know in the US and worldwide, majority of patients above 65 have sometimes 5 or more medical comorbidities and are on 15 or more medications. So having the capacity to integrate all of this into one digital twin platform can really allow clinicians to develop customized treatments across multiple specialties at the same time. And that's also a project that was done by Dassault and Meditwin. So I hope these examples gave you a little flavor of what is happening right now, what type of pilots are being done, and which pilots. These are all successful, so we hope that they can be scaled. And now I would like to focus a little bit on the challenges we have, of course, because not everything always works out the way we like to. So when we look at AI deployment in general, the challenges in the whole world, regardless of the industry, actually, are very similar. The biggest one right now is governance challenges. Traditional governance models that we've been doing for decades do not work for the rapid pace of AI deployments and the number of transactions, as well as the speed of transactions. And now with multi-agentic AI, where multiple agents are tasked to perform independently, it has become even more imperative to have modern governance that can handle all these multiple agents. You cannot expect one human manager to manage multiple agents that are doing tasks at an exponential speed and at an exponential volume. So therefore, digital twins can actually become the new governance agent for all AI deployments. The second big challenge we have is risk management gaps. Traditional risk management is not equipped to even measure all the risks that can potentially arise when AI agents interact with each other and when multiple agents perform tasks at that rapid speed that I just described. Another very big problem is that we are at the beginning of this massive deployment, so no one has had enough data yet to do proper quality assurance and quality improvement. And once again, there are not many people that know how to do this. So digital twins can actually become a helpful tool for people that have worked in quality assurance and quality improvement for many years to learn how to do it in this new environment. Cyber ethics concerns, they are always present, but particularly for AI, we've seen massive breaches because, once again, traditional cyber defenses and traditional ethics guardrails are not equipped for this type of modern ecosystem. The ROI uncertainty that I mentioned, when people propose a pilot for AI, the ROI always looks great, but when the pilot is completed, the ROI does not always come to fruition. So that uncertainty is ongoing. Then we have the operational complexity. So one thing that I'll share a little later is that digital twin can help us with orchestration of all these tasks. The way we used to deploy technology was already quite complex when we had a simple technology that had to be deployed, and we still had a lot of operational challenges. Now, when you deploy AI or multi-agentic AI, it infuses the whole enterprise. You cannot talk anymore about AI deployment in a small department. Even if the pilot is owned by a small department, it always has a ripple effect on all other departments within an enterprise. The interoperability and data challenges have, of course, been exponentially magnified. And then the life cycle adaptation constraints. So we have pilots that have been only designed to function for one stage of a product or a service or a specific transformation that we want to get in our healthcare operations. But no one has yet had the opportunity to look at the full life cycle. There are initial stages, but that is a big challenge for a lot of enterprises to now move from initial pilot to full life cycle adaptation for these AI deployments. Of course, for healthcare, we have all the other challenges that everybody else experiences in all industries, but on top of that, we have some unique healthcare challenges to make it more complex. So clinical safety and patient harm risk. Many projects that I consult on have been portrayed as no impact on patient care. And almost every single one ended up having some impact on patient care through the provider or through any other divisions within that healthcare ecosystem. So very important to take those into consideration. I've been asked to evaluate what went wrong in many projects, and the risk assessment was totally wrong at the beginning. So that's a big problem we have in healthcare. Regulatory classification ambiguity. As we mentioned, the field has advanced rapidly, but regulations are lagging behind to try to crystallize how enterprises can manage these complex AI deployments. Real-world clinical validation requirements. Of course, all these predictions done through digital twinning will have to confirm that what we claim is improvement will actually be sustained and is documented. Clinical workflow integration complexity. So it's easier when you do a pilot and when you do something for operational efficiency, but once you start to touch clinical workflows where nurses and doctors have to change what they're doing every single day, it starts to get quite complicated. Data fragmentation and interoperability constraints in healthcare, as we know, much harder to do a lot of the digital twinning that's done in all other industries. Bias and health equity implications. So many projects that I've seen forgot to think about healthcare equity, and then a lot of catastrophic consequences emerge. So it's really important to think about those at the beginning. Then liability and malpractice, which doesn't exist in other industries like we have in healthcare. It's unique. Dynamic model drift in clinical environments is even more complicated than in others because we have patient variability, provider variability, disease variability, and so forth, compared to just AI model drifting. And then, of course, having clinical digital trust is much more complicated than just the digital trust we're struggling with in other industries. And now that we understood the challenges, I want to focus a little bit on AI optimization for specific healthcare domains. So how can we use digital twins to optimize specific domains? The first set of pilots were to just optimize what we're doing now. What we want to now understand is how can digital twins optimize even other AI deployments that are being done? So using digital twin for other AI deployments. This is something I've spent almost a year and a half on now, advising enterprises that have deployed AI, and they are realizing that the current staff they have that's doing governance, risk, compliance, quality assurance, they are completely overwhelmed. They don't even know how to assess these AI deployments. So I want to share how we can use digital twins to help us for all other AI deployments. The first example is in patient-level human digital twins. The other example is in organ system level digital twins, medical device digital twins, pharma digital twins, the hospital operations and infrastructure twins. All of these can help us to improve even other AI deployments. Another big domain that is also starting to emerge at a global level is population health and public health twins. So simulating large population sets for the World Health Organization or for United Nations or for other large-scale planet-positive projects is really important, not only for us to prevent future pandemics or deal with future pandemics, but also to be able to forecast other disease outbreaks that are not necessarily at the scale of a pandemic, and also to be able to do health equity modeling and resource allocation planning. Also, supply chain and logistics digital twins, very helpful, as well as I mentioned, regulatory compliance and governance twins. Another domain that is emerging is workforce and training simulation twins. As we know, AI has been deployed almost in every human resource department. And being able to use digital twinning to now improve that AI deployment for the workforce is very helpful. Digital therapeutics and remote monitoring digital twins also very helpful, and that's something that medtech companies are already doing. So let us now understand not only these domains, but also the domains of improvement that are understanding how we can increase ROI, how we can optimize our risk mitigation efforts, how we can optimize our cybersecurity efforts, how we can use digital twinning to improve quality and not only assurance, but also improve quality, and then impact optimization. This is something also that we must better understand how to do in the future, because all the pilots that have been done so far have not yet had a chance to show how they're impacting the broader ecosystem. So you might have good clinical initial results, but we want to understand how does that translate to societal, economic, environmental, and strategic outcomes. The other way to think about digital twins optimization is by AI category. The way we would use a digital twin to help us improve a generative AI is very different than we would do it for agentic AI or multi-agentic AI. The same way, it is very different how we would use a digital twin for, let's say, computer vision or medical imaging of any other type, or physical AI and embodied intelligence, or for humanoid robotics. So each of these AI categories will require a customized digital twin to help create that quality assurance and quality improvement and performance improvement. There are several examples where digital twinning for AI optimization has already been done successfully in other industries, and we hope that we can replicate those for us in healthcare and life sciences as well. So the real-time simulation of AI behavior. So let's take a complex operating room environment or an emergency room environment or ICU environment. You have now already hospitals that deploy agentic AI for the operating room or deploy agentic AI to sustain certain functions in the ICU or for their logistics. So smart hospital systems have deployed already multi-agentic AI for several of their logistics. So those type of real AI simulations need to now have a digital twin that helps improve the performance. Safe sandbox testing. We don't have many healthcare specific safe sandboxes, and that's something really important to create so that more companies can feel comfortable doing it. Predictive maintenance of AI models and AI, of course, supported infrastructures. That again has been done for 20 years in other industries, but we don't have that yet in healthcare. So we hope that we can design digital twinning to help us maintain all these deployments. Then the continuous calibration and performance tuning, as well as improved auditability, traceability, and regulatory readiness. This specific domain, I've worked on several projects where healthcare enterprises that function in multiple states or multiple countries with different regulatory guidelines, different policies, different procedures, need some type of tool that can help them integrate all of this and adapt quickly when there are changes. And digital twins are actually quite suitable for that because healthcare regulatory and legal ecosystems are complicated everywhere in the world. So again, digital twinning can help with AI deployments and specifically with auditability, traceability, and regulatory readiness. As we know, the EU has been clamping down really hard on a lot of AI deployments. So having actually a digital twin that can manage regulatory guidelines for EU and US and Asia and Africa is actually a very elegant tool. And then reduction of deployment uncertainty and operational risk. The same way we did failure mode analysis for traditional deployments, the same way we can actually do a digital twinning failure mode analysis, the same way we do it in other industries, but for healthcare. And that would save us a lot of money, a lot of time, and prevent negative outcomes. And then, of course, digital twins can function as a foundational layer for digital trust. And that is, of course, very important for a lot of enterprises. Another lens that we must understand is AI optimization through the life cycle of certain products. This is, again, the reason why, in my opinion, what I've seen in the opportunities I had to consult, many projects were having AI for only one of these phases. And they didn't understand how it will impact, of course, all other aspects in the life cycle of that specific product or service. So just to have a pilot proposed for one of these domains within the life cycle and not understand how it will have collateral impact on all others is a very common reason why they do not show the ROI that they hope for. So in the design phase, training phase, validation phase, deployment phase, post-deployment phase, as well as then embedding continuous learning. That's very important. A lot of AI projects didn't even have this proposed at all, and none of them had governance either. Everybody just rushed to deploy AI to keep pace with competition, but they did not truly think through all these phases. So really important how to think that digital twins can actually help with all of these phases at the same time and then give continuous infinity loop feedback for all these stages. So now that we understood a little bit the global landscape, the challenges, the pilots, how digital twins can actually help with all other AI deployments, let's conclude with a few other use cases and then we'll take some questions. So I just shared how digital twinning can be used for other AI deployments. So here is one example how in England, they use this at a national level for all their healthcare system to do capacity modeling. So they integrated this new digital twin platform real time across hospitals. And they focused, of course, on critical resources because they learned from the pandemic what happened when they didn't have this. So this is a great example where you can do it at a national level when you have a healthcare system like in the UK. But we have several large hospital systems in the US that operate in 17 states, 10 states, where it would be great to do something like this. So here, the digital twinning for AI governance helped with coordinating data-driven allocation of critical resources, supporting escalation protocols and inter-hospital transfers. That's a big problem we have also in the US. A lot of money is being wasted and many patients suffer due to this. It also created strengthened transparency and accountability. So for us in the US, this would be very helpful also for governance of finances. We have a lot of fraud, abuse. So extrapolating from this successful digital twin at a national level in the UK, we could do something similar in the US as well. Another example that I wanted to share was how digital twinning was used for ROI optimization. And there are several use cases. I just selected a few. One of them is from Ireland, where they reported a capacity uplift of 32% for MRI, 26% for CT scans. I mean, that's amazing. There are many patients who wait to be scheduled for these type of procedures in many countries, but also for US, this would be a major opportunity. In Israel, they used digital twinning for ROI optimization in stem cell and cell therapy manufacturing. And again, they showed about 30% capacity increase. These are not small numbers. This translates into hardcore dollar gains. GSK in Italy also used the biopharma digital twin and also showed about 20% reduction in capital expenditure. So as you can see, it's very easy to show ROI optimization if you use digital twinning. Another example was how GE Healthcare participated in this digital twin for predictive maintenance, like I mentioned before, and they were able to also not only prevent failures, but also enhance performance. Another example was in a project led by the Alan Turing Institute and University of York, and they delivered an open source platform. So it was, very helpful, of course, for digital twins and AI that embedded governance, privacy, safety, and transparency in operational workflows. So that's something, of course, given the EU AI Act, that was very well received. Then another example, an eye hospital in the UK did digital twinning for patient flow and quality improvement. I also had a chance to work on several digital twins for operating room improvement, particularly for anesthesia, to have improved safety, or for complex surgical procedures where several surgeons have to participate in one operation. And it works beautifully. You gain not only operating room time, but also less impact on the patient. Of course, if you can shorten the surgical procedure from 9 hours to 3 hours or from 9 hours to 5 hours, it's a big difference. So I want to conclude with a few thoughts on future directions for development. As we mentioned, digital twins are in flux. There are massive investments, there are massive pilots, but we now need to think about the future. And I've structured these for the boardroom, C-suite, and middle management. What can they do to prepare better for the future? Because the field is advancing very, very quickly. So in the last few minutes, let's understand what can healthcare boards do if they want to succeed in AI deployments and use digital twins for this. So one thing that boards can do is on the governance side to mandate digital twin architectures as a board level oversight. So they can have full oversight, full transparency, full accountability to everything that's going on instead of getting reports every 3 months or at the annual report. Strategic ROI and performance optimization. So they can mandate that all the AI deployments have a digital twin component so that they can simulate, benchmark, and optimize the ROI. And then, of course, the resilience. So at the board level, they must demand that all the pilots have a long-term plan and resilience embedded. And as I'll share a little later, that can include also quantum resilience, because as we know, by 2030, all enterprises must be quantum resilient. Actually, for healthcare, US has even recommended 2027, which is just very close next year, because it is predicted that all these AI deployments are highly vulnerable to quantum breakthroughs. So very important. At a C-suite level, a few things that at the C-suite level must be accomplished if we want to ensure long-term gains from AI deployments by using digital twins. So having a digital twin layer integrated with existing AI pipelines across the full lifecycle, like I described, as opposed to just approving isolated pilots, embedding continuous QA, QI, and risk and cyber ethics controls all in one, not isolated. That's a big important element if they want to succeed long term. And then talent and investment roadmap. So to hire talent is the biggest challenge we have in healthcare. All other tech companies have attracted a lot of the talent, and it's very difficult with the salaries we have in healthcare in the US to attract the talent that we need in hospitals to help with this. So I hope this will change. And then there are a few recommendations for the technology team and the management team to think about if we want to build these digital twin-enabled healthcare ecosystems, which we've seen glimpses of today. We need to shift, of course, from reactive care to continuous wellness and disease prevention modeling so that the full benefit of these digital twins gets realized. We want to understand that this precision medicine gains that we can have with digital twins also helps us to develop these ecosystems where we have hyper-personalized precision medicine at scale. So for large populations that might fit a certain category. Novel healthcare financing. We cannot expect that the current budgeting and current financing model fit all these digital twinning deployments. And also novel business models. It's a recent article I published on this. We cannot have the same type of business models we used 50 years ago and expect that they'll be suitable for current deployments in AI. And then, of course, reconfiguring the healthcare delivery models. The way we deliver care has already changed just with the traditional legacy systems such as EHRs and telehealth. But when you hear about the novel deployments that are being done now, powered by agentic AI, powered by physical AI, powered by digital twins, it is a completely new environment even. So the leaders in digital twins, such as Dassault Health Systems and NVIDIA and Siemens and Philips, they're all working on actual smart hospital rooms, smart hospital buildings, because they understand that the whole care delivery model has to be redesigned. And then, of course, quantum resilience that I just highlighted. And a novel concept that I introduced this year is regenerative health ecosystems. It is critical to think about the planet too, and about sustainability, and about how healthcare is actually contributing to sustaining the planet. I did not know this until I spent more time researching it, but I always thought just energy industry is the biggest pollutant. Well, healthcare is the second biggest polluter right after energy industry. So creating regenerative health ecosystems is a critical future direction that we must also dedicate resources to. As we know, Google and NVIDIA partnered to create a digital twin of planet Earth. So imagine if we could combine all the data from the World Health Organization with a digital twin of planet Earth, how important that could be to understand how these environmental factors affect our health, our wellness, and can prevent future disease. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share a few thoughts. I know it's a lot of information, but I hope we can continue the conversation, of course, and I'm looking forward to the questions from our audience.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ingrid. That was awesome. It was a lot of information, but very useful information and very helpful information. Thank you so much. I think that was a great presentation on digital twinning. I'll just open the floor to questions. I think in the past, we've allowed the speaker to see the questions. They'll come on the chat because we've enabled the chat for questions.
It's great if we can.
Please go ahead and ask Ingrid any questions if you have.
While we're waiting, I can share a question I always get because I give a lot of talks on digital twins. Everybody's always asking me, where can I see a digital twin? And I always have to answer, you don't see the twin, but you benefit from it. So the same way we can benefit from flying in a safe aircraft because the engine was tested through a digital twin in the factory. The same way we can drive a car when we know that the engine was tested through a digital twin, but we don't see the twin. We just have the benefits. So it's one of these modern developments that has a lot of benefits, but you can't see it, touch it, feel it. You just get to benefit from all the beautiful capabilities.
Ingrid, we have a question. If you go to
Yes.
the Q&A, there's a Q&A button at the bottom. The gentleman Toledo.
Yes.
J. Toledo.
Yeah, so the first part I always recommend to start a model is to make sure that your data set is clean, validated, has, of course, all the consents. Then after that, make sure that you have the standardization and the benchmark that you want. That's really important before you start anything. If you don't have the standardization and benchmarking, of course, after the cleaning, it is really futile to start anything. And then from a digital twinning perspective, like I mentioned, I would think in the design phase already to try to maximize the benefit of what you're trying to accomplish, to think throughout all those life cycle stages and to think how to perhaps have the interoperability between departments. That's the biggest gap that I see. The data team is usually doing a great job. That's not where the problems happen. But then when you deploy, everybody else has no clue how to deal with that and how to actually implement it. So talking with the team, developing multidisciplinary teams, and understanding how whatever model you're going to train impacts all other departments and all other domains is critical. Honestly, from a data science and AI engineering perspective, usually things go fine. People know what they're doing, but that's why I mentioned the benchmarking and the standardization. What are you trying to accomplish and how will it affect everything else in the domain where you want to deploy it? Let's see what other, I see one more. Absolutely, yes, I see it. I see it. So I'll read it just to be sure. Will the advancements of digital twin technology create a gap between countries that can develop their own models like US and other developing countries? Absolutely. I've actually written a lot of articles on digital sovereignty, and cloud systems and digital twinning are currently being developed now that are sovereign. We know that recently NVIDIA partnered also with several companies in Europe to develop their own sovereign models. And Luxembourg and Switzerland are working on that too. But absolutely, we'll have a big gap. In addition to the digital divide that we already have, this will just be another layer. And absolutely, there are countries like Singapore who already have a digital twin model for their airport, for hospital systems, for urban planning, and real estate. So that's already light years ahead compared to many other countries who have not even heard about digital twinning. So totally.
Oh,
I can read it for you. Should AI
Yeah.
governance come from a top-down approach, or should it be in individual domains such as education, healthcare, research, etc.?
I think it should be multi-directional. I don't think it should be top-down or bottom-up. It should be decentralized in the organization. I'm a big advocate of decentralizing governance for all digital deployments, because that's the only way you can actually achieve what you want to achieve. If you just do top-down, we've tried. And by the time all the top-down decisions trickle down, the teams have already developed 1,000 models. I had one organization, we were working at the board and C-suite level to develop their policy. They already had 10,000 models floating around in the organization. And just bottom up is not good either, because not that the teams are not talented, they are, but the challenge is that they don't know the rest of the strategic vision. So whatever they'll do, they don't know how to integrate and how to orchestrate with all other initiatives. So therefore, I think it has to be multi-directional within the enterprise, and it has to be decentralized. Multiple nodes within the organization need to know how to handle governance for this type of deep tech deployment. That's my experience and observation.
We have one more. Can we expect the use of digital twinning in almost everything from what I just heard, right?
Absolutely. We have proof already in almost every industry. In the little videos I shared, you get a glimpse. But if you also look at the leaders in the digital twinning industry, their websites have pilots in almost every industry you can imagine, including agriculture. I didn't know anything about agriculture, but I was asked to consult, and they put a sensor on their crops, and they use geospatial data. And with a digital twin, they were able to improve the crop's efficiency. Imagine even there. Or a recent one I was asked to help with, they are doing mining for rare earth minerals. So certain rare earth minerals, and with geospatial data, we were creating a digital twin for that. So a lot of industries have already done amazing pilots, but yes, the answer would be we can expect every industry without a doubt. Great question, Ben.
I see answer 1 second. Okay, nothing more. Oh, no, I think that's it. Anonymous approach.
I don't see any open
Okay.
questions.
Okay, good. I also didn't see anything. I think we are over time, but I just want to thank the participants and Ingrid, of course, for this. As I said, I started to think it was a treat, and you got a treat. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope my dream is to have a digital twin for education.
You got it.
Yes.
That's the email I sent you a little while ago.
Yes. So I hope that will help us recalibrate and reconfigure education for all the future generations. So thank you again for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to all the future speakers in this wonderful series.